Chronicles of the Grim Reaper, The Price of Spices, by Griz Calderon. The boy was drawn to the sea. From the moment he could walk, Vasco spent his days near the harbor at Signs, where ships rocked in the tide like giants resting after battle. He would watch the sailors unload crates of salt and cod, their skin darkened by the sun, their eyes reflecting both exhaustion and wonder. The scent of tar and brine clung to everything, and the boy breathed it in as if it were part of him. He asked endless questions about the waves, the stars, the winds that carried men to lands he could only imagine. Most adults brushed him aside, but one old sailor smiled and told him, "The sea gives, and the sea takes. You'll learn which more quickly than you wish." That lesson came sooner than anyone expected. One evening, a storm rose without warning. The harbor turned violent. Masts snapped, ropes tore free, and a man was thrown from the docks. Vasco watched as others tried to save him, but the sea swallowed him whole. The boy's heart pounded as the water calmed, eerily still. He did not know it then, but he was not the only witness. On the shore, a figure stood unmoving, tall and cloaked, a scythe glinting faintly beneath the lightning's flash. The Grim Reaper had come for the sailor's soul, as he always did. The boy never felt the Reaper again, not with his eyes, but he would feel his presence many times in the years to come. Vasco grew into a man, with the sea stitched into his bones. He studied maps by candlelight, traced coastlines with his fingers, and dreamed of the lands beyond them. When the chance came to lead an expedition, he accepted without hesitation. It was not for riches or fame, not entirely. It was curiosity, the same restless pull that had followed him since childhood. But curiosity was a dangerous wind. The voyage around the Cape of Good Hope tested every part of him. The ship reeked of salt, sweat, and sickness. The timbers groaned as they pressed through relentless winds. Below deck, sailors lay in hammocks or slumped on the planks, their gums bleeding, their skin yellowed and swollen. Scurvy had claimed many, and fever claimed more. The Grim Reaper moved unseen among them. He passed beneath the creaking beams, his scythe brushing the air above shrouded bodies. One sailor whispered a prayer to a god who seemed far from the sea. Another begged for water as his lips cracked like parchment. The Reaper heard them all, yet his hand was steady. One by one, he guided their souls from the stench of the ship into the silence of the deep. Above deck, bodies wrapped in cloth were carried to the rails. With short prayers and weary arms, they were tipped into the endless water. The ocean swallowed them without ceremony, each splash another reminder of how thin the line between fortune and ruin had become. Still, the voyage pressed on. The men spoke of what awaited them in India: cinnamon, pepper, cloves, riches beyond imagining. For every life taken by the sea, Lisbon's coffers would overflow. Hope and despair clung together like ropes in the storm. The Reaper lingered. He had walked these decks many times, each passage filling the ocean with souls. Yet his purpose was not only to take the nameless. He remained for the one whose name history would remember. Years passed. The boy who once watched the harbor had become an old man, his skin lined and his gaze heavy with memory. Vasco da Gama, the man who had found the passage to India, now returned to the east one last time. In Cochin, the air was thick with spice and incense, the sound of traders echoing through narrow streets. But da Gama did not walk among them. Fever bound him to his bed, his body wasting while the wealth of empires hummed just beyond his window. He lay there listening to the bustle outside, the merchants haggling, the scent of pepper carried in through the shutters, and for the first time in many years he thought not of trade routes or triumphs, but of the men who had fallen along the way. He could see their faces, blurred by time but still familiar. He remembered the coughing, the prayers, the splash of bodies meeting the water. He had commanded them to press forward even when fear hollowed their eyes. He had told them their sacrifice would build a nation. And it had. But the cost had followed him across every sea. The room grew colder. A faint shadow filled the corner, tall and silent, the air bending around it. The reaper had come, as he had so many times before, though now for the one who had always felt his presence. Da Gama did not fear him. He felt the weight of understanding settle over him, an unspoken truth, neither mercy nor judgment. Discovery and death had always sailed side by side. One could not exist without the other. Outside, a soft wind stirred. The scent of spices drifted through the room, cinnamon, clove, pepper, and salt. He turned his face toward it, the ghost of a smile forming as his breath slowed. He imagined his ships cresting over the horizon, the sails billowing like clouds, the ocean glittering beneath them. He imagined the men who had followed him, their laughter, their courage, their unspoken fear. The fever finally broke him. His chest rose once more, then stilled. The reaper stood by the window, watching as the breeze carried the last traces of life from the room. There was no sound, no light, only a faint shimmer in the air, as though his spirit had mingled with the scent of spice and drifted outward, back toward the sea. The grim reaper lingered a moment longer, unseen by those outside, before turning away. In the markets below, traders bartered, ships loaded, and the wind carried the fragrance of fortune and the memory of the lives it had claimed. The end.